In this video, you will learn how to make a short pass. A short pass is always made along the ground in order to make it easier for your teammate to control the ball when they receive it. 3 techniques are important to remember in order to make a successful short pass: the positioning of the supporting foot and shoulders, the foot's contact with the ball, and the bending of the legs. Firstly, the positioning of the supporting foot and ankles. The supporting foot is the one which does not kick the ball. Position it level with the ball at around 20 centimeters to the left if you are right-footed, like in this example. The supporting foot should be pointing towards the target. It is also important to keep the ankles facing the target. Secondly, the foot's contact with the ball. Kick the ball with the flat part of your foot, in other words, the inside of your foot. In order to do this, open your foot and kick the ball in its center. Finally, the bending of the legs. Bend the supporting leg in front and the kicking leg next to it. This will make you more stable and your movements more fluid. To practice, position yourself 3 meters away from a wall. Kick the ball against the wall so that it returns directly to you and stays on the ground. Practice until you can do this regularly. In order to make a short pass, think about angling your ankles and your supporting foot towards the target, using the flat inside part of your foot to kick the ball and bending your legs. Over to you.
The outside foot pass is used to pass the ball over short to medium distances. Particularly when the player is running with the ball, where using the inside of the foot would disrupt the flow of their run.
Now let's take a look at coaching this technique step by step.
Step 1. Approach the ball from a slight angle and point the non-kicking foot away from the target, not directly at it. Step 2. Bring the kicking leg through with the foot pointing down and turn it inwards so that the outside of the foot is facing the middle of the ball. Strike the middle of the ball with the outside of the foot and make sure that the foot is locked in this position. Step 3. Snap the kick out from the knee towards the target and follow through.
Hi, I'm Christy Rampone, captain of the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team, and today we're going to work on the instep pass. This is a great pass when you need distance and accuracy. You can approach the ball in a straight line or from an angle. You're looking for some power here, so make your last stride before you kick a long one. With your eyes focused on the ball, plant your non-kicking foot beside the ball about 6 inches away, making sure your toes are pointed towards your target. Keep your head down and your eyes on the ball as you start your downswing. You want to swing your leg from the hip, toes still pointed, and have your kick move horizontally across your body as you strike through the ball. You're connecting with the ball with this part of your instep. See how my knee on my kicking leg is over the ball when I connect? Then I'm bringing my kicking foot horizontally across my body to create backspin on the ball. This helps keep the ball flying straight and makes it easier for your teammates to handle the ball when it gets to them. For a medium or high pass, instead of bringing your foot horizontally across your body, your foot is going to follow through the kick and along the same plane as the flight of the ball. Practice low, medium, and high passes from both sides over and over again so you feel just as natural from each side. The more you practice, the more automatic it will be for you come game time, and the more fun you'll have. See you at the games.
One of the best feelings in football is hitting a sweet long ball. But if you want to drive the ball accurately and over long distance, you need to master how to ping. Notice a bend in the standing leg knee as you don't want to be too upright. The standing foot should point towards the target. When your foot contacts the ball, your toes should be pointing to the side. This will encourage you to connect with the lower to middle inside of your foot. You should be hitting the ball just below the middle, not right at the bottom, as this would be creating loft and the ball wouldn't travel very far. We want drive as well as height. Where your kicking leg goes after contacting the ball is crucial. People often think to play a long high pass, they must get underneath the ball by leaning back and using their toes to scoop underneath. This is incorrect technique and will not allow you to drive the ball over big distances. Instead, the kicking leg needs to sweep quickly down to the ball and then across your standing foot. This is very similar mechanics to a golf swing. For a fluid technique, many players will let their standing foot brush the ground after contact. Approach the ball at an angle with arms out for balance and to generate rotation at the hip. Take a big final step and land your standing foot slightly ahead of the ball. Your shoulders and upper body should be facing the target. Contact the ball with the lower to middle inside of your foot, just below the middle of the ball. As the kicking leg sweeps down and around to contact the ball, it should follow that motion and move across the standing leg. And finally guys, being able to pass accurately and consistently like the pros is down to one thing. That's constant repetition in practice.
You're watching All Attack. The best players in the world have great touch on the ball. Today we'll show you a few exercises to help you improve your ball control using a wall. Basic control. Start by passing the ball against a wall. Use the inside of your foot to stop the ball as close to your body as possible. Begin close to the wall. Then slowly increase the distance and speed of your passes as you improve over time. Practice passing and controlling the ball with both your left foot and your right foot. Turn control. Pass the ball low and hard against a wall. Then practice turning past an imaginary defender with your first touch. Use both the inside of your foot and the outside of your foot to turn quickly away. Remember to practice turning with both your right foot and your left foot. Air control. Use a high wall to practice controlling the ball out of the air. Use your hands or your foot to bounce the ball high off the wall. Then use your feet, knees, chest, or head to control the ball before it reaches the ground. As you improve, practice juggling the ball to yourself off the wall. Using your skills, keep the ball from touching the ground as long as possible. Alright guys, we hope you liked that video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up down below along with a comment with anything you'd like to see us do. Also don't forget to subscribe and to follow All Attack on social media.
Dribbling with the outside of the foot is the most common dribbling technique. It is used when a player is going forward in a straight line, and it is also used when a player has open space in front of them and they are running with the ball at speed.
Now let's look at coaching this technique step by step.
Step 1. Make sure that the ball is in front of the body, which makes it easier to dribble the ball. Step 2. Bring the dribbling foot forward and turn the foot inwards so that the little toe side of the foot is facing the middle of the ball. Step 3. Dribble the ball by pushing the little toe side of the foot through the middle of the ball. Make sure that the touch is nice and light, keeping the ball close to the body. The only time you will push the ball with a harder touch is when the player has plenty of open space in front of them for them to push the ball into. Step 4. While dribbling, keep the head up with the eyes looking about 2 yards in front of you. This way you can see the ball while you're dribbling, and you can also see the surrounding areas and any opponents that are coming in to get the ball off you. Now let's look at demonstrating this technique to your young players. Now let's look at some common mistakes that young players make when performing this technique and solutions on how to fix them. Common mistake number 1 is that the young player gets the ball tangled up in their feet as they're dribbling the ball. This is because they're standing over the ball as they're dribbling. Make sure that the player has the ball in front of them as they're dribbling so that the ball is clear of their feet and they get a nice clean touch. Common mistake number 2 is that the young player has a heavy touch on the ball and pushes the ball too far ahead of them. This gives the opportunity for the opponent to get possession of the ball. Always remind players to make a nice light touch on the ball, keeping the ball as close to their body as possible. The only time that it is suitable to really push the ball with a heavy touch is when the player has lots of space in front of them. The third common mistake that young players make when they're dribbling the ball is that they push the ball out to the side instead of out in front of them. This happens because the young player pushes the outside of the foot through the side of the ball, which pushes the ball outwards. It is important to remind the young player to push the outside of the foot through the middle of the ball, which pushes the ball out in front of them, making it easier for the next touch. The fourth common mistake that young players make is that when they're dribbling the ball, they have their head down, staring at the ball. When they do this, they're unable to see anything that's happening around them, particularly if an opponent is coming in. They won't realize that the opponent is there until the last moment when it's too late. It is important to remind players that when they're dribbling with the ball, have their head up and have their eyes looking about 2 yards in front of them. That way they can see the ball and see the surrounding area at the same time. This way they can tell if there's an opponent coming in to get the ball off them, or they can also see supporting teammates which they can pass to. The fifth common mistake that young players make when dribbling the ball is that they use their toes to dribble the ball instead of the outside of the foot. Dribbling with the toes makes it very hard to keep the ball nice and close, and quite often the touch is heavy, pushing the ball too far away from the player. It is important to remind players to use the outside of their foot when dribbling the ball, and this is done by bringing the foot inwards so that the little toe side of the foot is facing the middle of the ball. This helps keep the ball nice and close, and it allows the player to have a nice light touch on the ball. Dribbling with the inside of the foot is an important skill in soccer. A player uses this skill when they are dribbling towards an open space or towards an opponent. They also use this skill when they are wanting to change direction of the ball, either to left or right or back the way they came. And lastly, they will use the inside of the foot to dribble when they want to keep very close control of the ball, particularly in a tight pressure situation. Now let's look at coaching this technique step by step. Step 1. Always make sure that the ball is directly in front of the foot that is dribbling the ball. Step 2. Bring the dribbling foot outwards so that the inside of the foot is facing the middle of the ball. Step 3. Contact the center of the ball with the inside of the foot, pushing the ball in the intended direction. Be sure to keep the touch nice and light to keep the ball close to the body. Step 4. While dribbling the ball, keep your head up with your eyes looking about 2 yards in front of you so you can see both the ball and the space surrounding you. Now let's look at demonstrating this technique to your young players. Now let's look at some common mistakes that young players make when performing this technique and solutions on how to fix them. Common mistake number 1 is that the young player gets the ball tangled up in their feet as they're dribbling the ball. This is because they're standing over the ball as they're dribbling. Make sure that the player has the ball in front of them as they're dribbling so that the ball is clear of their feet and they get a nice clean touch. Common mistake number 2 is that the young player has a heavy touch on the ball and pushes the ball too far ahead of them. This gives the opportunity for the opponent to get possession of the ball. Always remind players to make a nice light touch on the ball, keeping the ball as close to their body as possible. The only time that it is suitable to really push the ball with a heavy touch is when the player has lots of space in front of them. The third common mistake that young players make is that they push the ball to the side instead of in front of them. This is because they bring their dribbling foot out to the side instead of squaring the inside of the foot towards the middle of the ball in the direction that they want to push the ball towards. It's important to remind players to really get their foot out so that the inside of the foot is facing in the direction that they want the ball to go towards. The fourth common mistake that young players make is that when they're dribbling the ball, they have their head down, staring at the ball. When they do this, they're unable to see anything that's happening around them, particularly if an opponent is coming in. They won't realize that the opponent is there until the last moment when it's too late. It is important to remind players that when they're dribbling with the ball, have their head up and have their eyes looking about 2 yards in front of them. That way they can see.
Dribbling with the sole of the foot is used when you are backed up into an opponent, and it wouldn't be practical to use the inside or outside of the foot, as this would allow the opponent to steal the ball. Using the sole of the foot keeps close control of the ball and keeps it away from the opponent. Dribbling using the sole of the foot is only used in tight spaces where keeping control of the ball takes priority. Now let's take a look at coaching this technique step by step. Step 1. Position your body between the opponent and the ball. Step 2. With the sole of the foot, move the ball so that it is away from the opponent and close to the body. Step 3. Use the sole of the foot to dribble into space to transfer to dribbling using the outside of the foot, or hold the ball to wait for a chance to pass to a teammate. Now let's look at how to demonstrate this skill to your young players. Now let's look at some common mistakes young players make when performing this technique and solutions on how to fix them. Common mistake number 1 is when the young player uses the wrong foot when dribbling the ball with their sole. An example of this is when the player is moving to the right using their right foot instead of the left. This is an unnatural movement when dribbling the ball with the sole of the foot. A solution to this is to encourage the player to use their right foot when dribbling to the left and to use their left foot when dribbling to the right. This is a more natural movement and keeps the ball under control and away from the opponent. Common mistake number 2 is when the young player dribbles the ball too far out in front of their body. This makes it easier for the player to lose control of the ball and allow the opponent to tackle or gain possession. A solution is to encourage the player to always keep the ball close to the body, just out in front, which makes it easier to maintain close control and not lose possession. Common mistake number 3 is when the young player dribbles the ball when it is directly under their body. This results in the player tripping over the ball and their own feet as they attempt to dribble. A solution to this is to encourage the player to always dribble the ball out in front of their body so the ball is clear of the path that they're dribbling into.
There are many ways to strike a football, and the smallest adjustment in your technique can make a huge difference in the flight of the ball. And today, I'm going to teach you 4 ways to strike the ball. So when it comes to striking a ball, there's a few things that stay consistent no matter what technique you use. The first is your planting foot. You always want to plant your foot beside the ball, pointing in the direction you want the ball to go, and you want to have a slight bend in your knee. This is going to help you with your stability and your balance and give you a lot more control over the shot. The next thing we need to do is lock our ankle. So making sure our muscles in our ankle are flexed so it's really rigid. You wouldn't be able to pull your foot up if you've locked your ankle correctly. If we lock our ankle, we're more solid behind the ball, it's going to have a cleaner connection and give more power and accuracy to the strike. Now, there are 3 things we can play around with that determine the type of technique we want to strike the ball with. So the first thing is the area of the foot we strike with. That determines how the ball reacts off our foot. The next thing is the area on the football we hit. That determines the movement of the ball. And then we've got our follow through. Our follow through can add spin, it can add extra power. That determines how much velocity and spin movement is on the ball. So the first technique we're going to walk through is the power shot, also known as the driven shooting technique. And this is where the ball travels flat through the air with not much movement whatsoever. You can add a little bit of backspin to make it rise, but typically a driven shot is going to be straight with no bend or knuckle. So for the driven shot, we want to plant our foot beside the ball, pointing directly at our target with that slight bend in the knee. And for this shooting technique, we're going to use our instep. So it's just to the side of the laces, the hardest bone in the foot. This is going to generate the most force. We're going to angle our foot out to the side so that we can expose that sweet spot. And then we want to be striking right through the middle of the ball. By striking through the middle of the ball, that takes away any swerve. It's going to help the ball travel flat, and you're going to achieve the most power with this shot. Then with your follow through, your foot moves towards the direction you want the ball to go. Then you hop off of your planting leg and land back on your kicking foot. This is going to help you strike the ball the most clean. The next shooting technique I'm going to talk you through is the curling shot. So this is adding spin to the ball to make it travel either right to left if you're right-footed or left to right if you're left-footed. So for this technique, your run-up is going to be slightly more at an angle, more of a 45-degree angle. This is going to allow you to wrap around the ball. The area of the foot we're going to strike the ball with is a little bit more towards the toe. So the instep is here, it's a little bit more towards the inside. This is going to give you more contact on the ball to generate that spin. And you want to angle your foot upwards so that you can cut from the bottom of the ball to the top of the ball. That's going to add that spin and also a little up and down movement as well. So not only are you going to get that right to left movement, but a little bit of up and down. Then with your follow through, you want to wrap across the ball, curve your technique, and that's going to allow you to curve the ball. Next up is the trivela. This time we're using the outside of the foot to generate that curl. So it's almost mirrored to a curling technique. If you're a right-footed player, you're going to be hitting that lower right-hand side of the ball and cutting upwards. For a trivela, if you're using your right foot again, you're going to be hitting that lower left-hand side of the ball and trying to cut upwards. Instead of using right on the outside of the foot, we're going to be making contact a little bit more on top of the foot here. This is going to help you generate more power. And for the follow-through, instead of cutting across the ball, you almost want to point in the direction that you want the ball to go. So you strike across the ball, and then your follow-through should come out in front of you in the direction you want the ball to go. And the final technique is the knuckleball. This is where you strike the ball trying to minimize any spin whatsoever so that the ball wobbles in the air and it's very difficult for the goalkeeper to read. For this type of shot, you can even put it right down the middle and it moves at the last second and goes past the goalkeeper. So a couple of things with the knuckleball. First is your run-up. It wants to be a bit straighter because you're going to be really using the top of the foot here on the inside. It's a really hard bone in the foot and you want to be striking right through the middle of the ball. So you want more of a straight run-up. When you strike the ball, you want to be hitting just underneath the center. You want to be angling your foot upwards and then punching the ball off of your foot. The reason we're hitting it on this really hard bone is because it allows you to jab the ball and minimizes that contact so it generates no spin whatsoever and flies through the air and wobbles at the very last second. So you want to hit just underneath the center of the ball on that hard bone, and as you make contact, you want to lift your foot and minimize your follow through. So you really want to flex your leg, tense those muscles so that you don't follow through and then step across your body. If you minimize the follow through, that's going to take away any spin on the ball. So there's 4 shooting techniques you can practice to help you score more goals in a match. But before you go, make sure you subscribe to the Unisport channel by clicking the bubble up here. And also, if you want more tips and tutorials from us, you can check out the playlist down here. And for the latest and greatest football gear, make sure you check out unisportstore.com over here. But I'm 7MLC. Until next time, I'm out.
What's going on, guys? I'm Jamie and I'm here with ProDirect Soccer to bring you a series of training drills looking at different aspects of the game to help improve your overall performance. It's often a skill that's neglected by many in football, but heading the ball and knowing how to be effective when heading the ball still holds a huge importance in the game. If you look at players like Manchester City's Gabriel Jesus and AC Milan's Christoph Piatek, both very different in structure and build, but equally as effective in the air. The only way to master these skills is making sure that you practice. So when you do find yourself in a match situation, the skills learned from these drills become second nature. First thing we want to think about when we're heading the ball is our stance. Now, this is all about finding what suits you the best. For me personally, I like to have one foot in front of the other, facing forwards, the other foot behind, giving you a little bit more balance, ready to push off. Other ways of doing it, you can come from front on, so feet square, about shoulder width apart. There, you can really bend down, power up, flicks the legs up. That's sort of the Ronaldo technique.
And then Ronaldo!
To generate power when we're heading the ball, it doesn't just come from the neck muscles, it comes from all over the body, starting from our legs and our glutes. So, when we're powering through the ball, use our momentum, bring it forward, power off that back leg from our glutes. Also comes from the back and from the hips. So again, we're not just stood there nodding the ball, we're bending back and we're powering through the ball. Next thing is our arms. So you don't see many players heading the ball with their arms by their sides. Arms out to the front, really power through the ball, almost like you're heading through a picture frame. That's how I was taught as a youngster. Out there, bang, head through it. Once we've got our solid base, the next thing we need to concentrate on is the connection with the ball. We need to use this part of the head, the centre part and the thickest part of the skull. Not only is the ball more likely to go in the direction you want it to go in, it's also probably not going to hurt as much as if it came off the side or the top of your head. Another thing worth noting is making sure that you keep your eyes open when you're heading the ball. When you do see a ball flying towards your face, it is tempting to close them. But if you can keep them open, give yourself the best chance of winning the header with a clean connection and the ball going in the direction you're hoping it does. So hopefully now you've mastered the basics of heading the football and feel confident in transferring these skills into a match situation. So we've got 3 key points that we need to remember. Always assess the flight of the ball. Your judgment when attacking is crucial. You want to meet the ball at the right time so you achieve a good connection. Number 2, use your body to really generate the momentum and power needed when heading the ball in either an attacking or defensive situation. And finally, make sure you head the ball with the right part of your head. To have your say about some of the techniques that you've seen in this video, or to request a tutorial in an area to improve your game, go ahead and drop it in the comment section below. Remember, we're going to be dropping more of these tutorials soon, so if you want to see more videos just like this one, hit that subscribe button right here. And if you fancy checking out some of the latest and greatest football gear from ProDirect Soccer, go ahead and click the link on screen. Until next time, I've been Jamie.